Welcome to another Apollo Papyrus podcast episode. I am Aaron Apollo Camp. For this episode, my interview guest, who has experience as a psychological counselor, journalist, university lecturer, and worker in children's hospices, is the author of the narrative nonfiction book I Love You, When, which is about narcissistic abuse in families. Her name is Marie Birtel, and my interview with Marie will follow the note-taking sounds. Marie Birtel, welcome to the Apollo Papyrus podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
Feel free to introduce yourself to our listeners.
Yes, so my name is Marie. I'm 40 years old. I'm a half German and half French. I live in Germany and France. And I'm an author and a psychological advisor. I'm specialized in toxic systems. That means I specialized in relationships that are toxic or unhealthy, and to discover or uncover what is toxic and how to get out of it. So I work a lot with clients that are in toxic relationships or themselves still are aware of toxic traits themselves, and they try to get a happier and better life. I published a book last year in 2024 in English and in German. It's called I Love You, When, and it is a self-help how you say? Sorry for my German, for my English. I think it's a self-help narrative. So, so this is me.
Without spoiling too much of your book, I Love You, When, what is it about? And you've described it as a self-help narrative. Is it fiction or nonfiction?
So it is nonfiction. It is my story. And it is a story that covers 40 years, like 4 decades. It starts with the birth of a young girl. The protagonist is called Emma, but in fact, it's my story. And I also, in the beginning of the book and also in the epilogue, I tell a little bit, explain about transgenerational trauma and make the readers understand what patterns of this protagonist and all the people that surround her, like her parents, her brothers, her uncle, and everybody who is involved in her life, how these patterns, where they come from, how you can discover them also through body symptoms. And this means body symptoms that are also like mentally health, such as depression or eating disorders. And in the end, I explain why a lot of people of us in this time nowadays are mentally struggling.
Your book has been published in 2 different languages, English and German. Did you write the book in both languages, or did you write the book in either English or German and then had it translated into the other language?
I wrote it in German, and then I translated it into English from somebody who is speaking native English. But I first published it in the US because for me, it was more easy to see because it was my first book. And I wanted, because it was my own process, and I just got rid of this toxic family system. And for me, it was better to publish it far away, than publish it in my own language. And then I got a lot of nice and good responses from people from all over the world who contacted me after reading it and telling me, we are so thankful that you published and spoke out about abuse in also rich families, because nobody talks about it. So I also gained power and, motivation and trust that I can also publish it in German and speak out about my story.
One thing I noticed on your website, and once this podcast episode is uploaded, I'm going to include a link to your author website in the text description of the episode. But why were completely different cover designs used for the English language version and the German language version of your book?
Yeah, that's a good question. So it is because the markets in the US and the German market are totally different. So I would say in Germany, if German people who are raised in Germany, who have like, the German culture in their blood, they would not really understand the cover that I created with somebody who is professional in US and buy it. So I had to do like different ways of marketing because, in Germany, people are not as far as in the US regarding mental health. So one example, there are still doctors there in Germany who are totally sure about mental and physical health have nothing to do with each other, and this is why I published it a little bit like different. I'm also a PR and marketing expert, so you can how you say you can your target group. You speak about your target group and you think about, okay, who is going to read the book and who do you want to reach out to? So you have to see like what cover would be good for them to understand, like in the first 5 seconds when they see the book and the title, to make it interesting to buy it. And I'm not talking about manipulative marketing. I talk about like authentic marketing, like, is this book really good for them? And does it maybe help or entertain them also, in a way?
What motivated you to write your book, and how did your work as a psychological counselor, journalist, university lecturer, and worker in children's hospices influence the writing of your book?
So I wrote the book and the story because I was a victim of a narcissistic family system myself. And I strongly believe that only people who have gone through narcissistic abuse are able to really understand what it means and how this kind of education and relationship and treatment has an impact also in your later life. Because I always say, when you are a child, you are not able to just leave your family. And then you are an adult, and a lot of people then ask you, why didn't you leave earlier? Why didn't you see this? And I always compare a narcissistic family with sects, because they use exactly the same manipulative patterns and treatment. So my motivation to write the book was that I wanted to share the story, because I know from my daily life, and I was a university professor for 10 years, also for a lot of young girls and women, that a lot of this kind of abuse is out there. In Germany, for example, we have a statistic that says the most dangerous situation that you can be in Germany as a woman is your own home, because there's a lot men that are still abusive, but to the outside they are always charming. But when their woman or their wife or their girlfriend or whatever comes home, they are abusive. And I'm also not talking only about physical abuse, but also like mental abuse, and all this kind of thing. So we have a statistic that says like every third day there's a partner that kills his partner, and it's mostly the females that are the victims. So I wanted to spread awareness about what how you say, not female but male toxicity, how huge the impact is for everyone. Even if you think like you're in your bubble, it also impacts your life as a man, as a woman. it's not only in something that you can say like, oh no, it doesn't bother me, I'm not this, but when you are a woman, you should be bothered by it, and you should like fight for a better life for all the women.
How long did it take you to write your book?
So in total, I would say I started to write the book when I was 16. I'm 40 now, so you can imagine how much emotions and memories of mine went into the book. But final to really decide to publish a book and then also write it in the way that I wrote it over 40 decades in short stories, it took me 9 months, like a baby.
Your book is a narrative nonfiction book. What are the easiest and hardest aspects of writing narrative nonfiction for you?
Thank you for that question. That's a very good question. I have to say, the triggers and the memories when you write about your own life or about what happened to you, and I would say if you are writing about your trauma, like your own trauma, and you have done, like me, therapy, coachings, constellation work, a lot of things, you always believe, okay, I'm fine now. But then when you write things, still things from your unconsciousness can come up. And then to deal with this is very hard. So this also brought me to make a new program, to build a new program that I'm now, I just launched in February, to help authors or people who want to write about their story to get through this process in a good way. That means I'm not only coaching them to write, because most of them can write, but I also help them through mental breakdowns, if they need like support, if they are like, triggered by something, a memory that comes up, or like working with their inner child. So I can coach them through this situation. And this is probably the most hard thing for authors when you write about your own story.
Was there any main difference between how the English language version of your book was published compared to the German language version?
Thank you. Not really, I have to say. I did the publishing through my self-publishing. I want to say self-publishing. I did a Kindle version and I did a paperback, and I also did an audiobook. The only difference is that my audiobook in German, I spoke it myself. And the English version is somebody who spoke it, because my English is not as good as somebody, that is native English. Otherwise, there are a few differences now, having published it, regarding the marketing and way of how to spread the information about the book. But that's all.
These are the next couple of these. Of course, the rest of this interview is going to be about narcissism in families, but the next couple of these questions in particular are going to be kind of follow-ups to points you've addressed previously in the interview to an extent. What is narcissism, and how does narcissism affect family relationships and dynamics?
Yes, so narcissism is a word that is used at the moment a lot. We can read it in social media and the media, and a lot of people just use it like, oh yeah, my ex-partner, he's a narcissist, or he's an idiot, things like that. So an idiot and a narcissist are not the same. Narcissism is a pathological illness. It's a disorder. So it means you are really lacking of something. And what narcissists lack is empathy. It's the station just right before psychopathy, So it means these people, for a reason, like something happened in their childhood, when they were very young, they got traumatized. Something just happened so that they got rid of all their emotions. And I think a healthy person can't really relate or even just think about how this can feel, but these people really don't feel anything. So this lack of feeling anything, they want to cover it because they know that people usually, when they are healthy, are feeling emotions like they feel for others, they feel love, they feel loved, things like that. So what they do is like they learn from others how to react in a good way, how you should react when you would be a healthy person. But their only way to cover this up is through other people, through empaths, in fact. Like, so when you are born into such a family, and for example, your mother is a narcissist and she has no emotions, she tries to cover it up with you as her daughter or her son. So it means everything you do as a daughter, it's just an extent of for your mother. So when you are good in school, your mother feels she is good in school. When you are beautiful, your mother feels when somebody gives you a compliment like, oh, you have a beautiful daughter. This is not for your daughter. It's your feeling that you need to have. But this also means in another way around, these suppliers, as we call them, like the daughter needs to perform. She needs to stay beautiful. She needs to do what the mother likes to do. She needs to, be a little bit like a doll that has a perfect life. So in the moment when this doll is not good, healthy moms would support their daughters and say, you know what, you gained 20 kilos. I don't care. I really want you to be healthy and everything, but it's your life, it's your body, you know? Narcissistic mothers can't do this. They would do anything to let you know that you are not good enough when you have, like, for example, gained kilos. So they make everything to make to manipulate you until you are beautiful again, skinny, whatever. So this is just an example. It can be like very individual in every relationship, but this is how you can explain it. So in the moment your daughter grows up, as long as they are children, it's easy to handle them because children are easy to manipulate as a mom. But when they grow up, they meet somebody, they go into a partnership, they get friends, whatever. It's very hard for a narcissistic mother to understand. And it's not even only understanding, it's just like they want to get the control back. So what they do is they manipulate you in the way of, I'm so worried about you because this man is not good for you. This friend is not good. This person is not good because you are the best. You are the most beautiful. You deserve something better. You know, they manipulate you, your surrounding, and they make it like very bad. So in the end, the only real person and the real good one in your life is your mom. And this is how they bring you into their dependency. And this is called, when you are in this dependency, codependency. And this is very hard to get out of it because you are used to it from the beginning of your life. And in a way, your nervous system got used to it. So everything else that is what we would call now normal would be feeling dangerous to somebody who grew up in this kind of environment. So these girls, when they grow up, they are most likely to get into a relationship with a man that is as toxic as the mother pattern, you know, because this is something that they know, and then they stay in this toxic relationship.
What are some common misconceptions that a lot of people have about narcissism?
I think that they are they are reading a lot about narcissism as narcissism is a character, a part of your character. Narcissism is something that people can get rid of or something, but it's not. It's really a disorder. It's something that you can't really treat. This is also something that is very hard for you to understand when you are with a narcissist or your parents are narcissists, because this is the only mental disorder that you can't treat, because depression you can treat, like, everything you can treat with medicine, you can go to therapy or whatever, but usually narcissists are not going to therapy because they think they are the only one that are right. They would never agree to somebody that they are wrong. And yeah, this is the misconception. It's not a characteristic. It's not somebody is selfish or egoistic. This is something totally different. Narcissism is something very dangerous. If you're an egoist, okay, just, be an egoist. That's good. But as long as you don't harm somebody with this, do whatever you want. But if you are lacking of empathy, it's really dangerous.
How can people recognize narcissistic behavior by their own relatives?
Yeah, by their own relatives, depends on. So the start is, so I have to tell you, like, I have not recognized it for a very long time, but I also didn't want to see the red flags. There have been red flags. For example, my father used to call me a slut since I was a very little girl. My mother never saved me from these kind of accuses. And she also agreed to it. Like, when I didn't, when I was a little bit, like, my room was a little bit messy. I'm telling you things like this, the room was a little bit messy, or I didn't, bring my water glass back into the kitchen. I was a slut. And things like that. And also when I grow up, like, when you have from the outside seeing a good life, and you are like, from outside, nobody would say, oh, something is wrong with you, but you feel very unhappy. It starts, for example, it can be depression. It can be an eating disorder. It can be also body symptoms as cancer or things like that. But let's get back to the eating disorder, because this is something that a lot of children or victims of narcissistic parents have, because eating, is something where you can go back into your control, because this is your body. Because what narcissists do is they try to get the control over your life, over your thoughts, over your body. So usually what children do is they try to make a little bit of, they try to get out of this control, because this is like killing you inside. So the only control they can have is about food. There are some who don't eat anything anymore. They try to kill themselves by starving to death. There are girls like me. I vomited. I had bulimia, but I felt good because I had a lot of, guilt and shame and also anger. And when I vomited, I felt like I was not allowed to scream or to say something, so I could vomit, and afterwards I felt better. I had the control. So this is something that's a very big symptom. So just in case your listeners or yourself, like, you are listening to this podcast and you feel like, I have an eating disorder and I don't really know where it comes from, like, look in your parents' patterns, how you grew up, because this usually comes from very little, like your childhood. It doesn't mean like every parent is a narcissist when you have an eating disorder, but this can be one of the symptoms. And what can also be a symptom is that you see when your family tries to isolate you from life and to make you anxious about life. I had just one client with whom I work on a regular basis, and she told me she's 39. She's already a mother. She's already almost a grandmother because she has a step daughter from another relationship. So she's an adult, but her mother, when she sees her, is anxious for her to leave the house at 8:00 in the evening. So she would say, like, if you go out, you are going to be violated by a group. This and this will happen. She's spreading anxiety to her. And this is not normal. Definitely not,
One final question. What is the best advice you could offer to someone who is trying to deal with a narcissistic family member?
Yes, very good question. Thank you, Erin. So the answer is very easy. You are able to get back your power to get out of the relationship, because you are not a victim in that case. You can look into your own patterns and change them, and this is the glue, because there's always two sides in a toxic relationships. And even if you think like one is the abuser or the narcissist, also the victim of him or her are definitely having, if they are staying very long time in this relationship, own patterns and responsibilities in this relationship, why they are not leaving. Usually they find a lot of excuses, like we have a child together, we have a house together. I already heard like we have a dog together, like for me it's like BS, but they always find a way to not get out of the relationship. In this case, they don't want to get out of the relationship. So my advice is, if you want to get out of it, take your time, get help, get professional help. This is very important. Don't involve your friends too much, because this is toxic also. You can speak to your friends, but you also need professional help. And then be aware of your own patterns and responsibilities in this relationship. And if you can work on them with, for example, a coach or a therapist or a specialist like me, you can gain back your power over yourself, and then you are ready to leave. And the wonderful thing about it is I have talked about it with a lot of victims that could get out of the relationship, that this person that they were so afraid of leaving, or they felt a lot of pity for the person, afterwards they looked at this person so differently, because all this image that these narcissists are building around them, it's just like it popped away like a balloon. Like you just pop in and boom, and there's nothing behind. So don't waste your time with this shit.
Marie, thank you for appearing on the Apollo Papyrus podcast. You were a very insightful guest.
Thank you so much, Erin.
Narcissism and intergenerational trauma are very difficult subjects to talk about, but I appreciate Marie for being willing to talk about her book and difficult topics like narcissism and intergenerational trauma. This is Aaron Apollo Camp reminding y'all to find your writing and reading purpose. Bye for now. Copyright 2025, Aaron Apollo Camp, all rights reserved. This podcast episode is intended for the private listening of our audience. Any reuse or retransmission of this podcast episode without the express written consent of the podcast host is prohibited except under fair use guidelines. Royalty-free music and sound effects obtained from https://www.zapsplat.com.